what has really helped us is all these restaurants now listing the calories when you go eat. At least there's something to go by. And I have been reading a lot about all kinds of articles that come about healthy and this and that. And I haven't found a single one that doesn't move you towards vegetables. Almost all of them are saying have more vegetables, whether it's cholesterol that reduces and all the other stuff. So I think one thing that happened is in those 75 years, McDonald's started serving 15 billion hamburgers or something like that. So, and McDonald's is not the only one. Our next item is Brendan for table topics, and Brendan did send me his comments on the tension in the air, if you will. Pleasantly surprised how outwardly spoken people are now than in the current political climate. I have heard more emotional opinions than in the last 4 years or last 12 years for that matter. I don't remember protests in London in the last 30 years about US presidents.
Did that one. Did you hear about the London protest?
Yeah.
What about? Okay.
Brendan.
A year ago already, but I was surprised how eloquent I was with that. Thank you. I don't use attention to the politics. I laughed my ass off at everything I have to say about it. Excuse me.
Today is the first day then. Let's get on with it.
So I only have a few minutes left, so I actually have 5 questions prepared. Well, I'm going to ask hopefully 2 of them. So I have to pick someone who has a role. I'll just guess. If it's wrong, just say I have a role. My favorite one for this one is in the 80s. I was in New York City walking by the Trump Tower on 5th Avenue, and I was with my family, and we said, he might run for president one day in 20 or 30 years. I want to know if anyone here, were you the same or different 30 years ago? Aileen, are you an evaluator?
No.
Oh, Aileen, would you like to try that one?
Sure. Was I the same 20 or 30 years ago? I think it was largely the same in a lot of ways, although 20 or 30 years ago I had 2 kids who needed to be taken care of, and I don't think I was I think I would give myself a B as a mother, and I found it very hard to balance everything. I found it very hard to exercise. I found it very hard to be a cook. I found it very hard to do the stuff you're supposed to do and be patient with a little kid. So I'm glad I have my children and I really love them, but I think life is easier now because I think it's much more normal for me to be a therapist than it is for me to be a parent. My children came out very well. They both know how to love and they know how to work, and they've picked life partners, and they seem like happy people, and they have empathy. So I think they came out very well, but I think they could have come out better if I had been a more organized person and maybe a more patient person, and someone who didn't mind doing the tough stuff that's kind of repetitive. So I think I'm a happier, more integrated person now, and my life is somewhat easier. And that feels like a huge confession because I don't tell that to people. Thank you.
Bob, do you have a role?
I have a role.
So to ease the tension, I usually say something like, well, at least it's not the stock market of 1932, or at least it's not the energy crisis of the late 60s and 70s. What do you use to ease the tension of politics? Or do you actually enjoy it with no tension?
What's the question now?
So I was giving an example. I usually think of, there have been worse times, like the stock market and energy crisis. But what do you do to keep perspective about when politics gets out of control or
Okay.
intense?
Okay, well, the theme is politics today, so I'll talk about that. As far as easing the tension in my own mind, it's very difficult. I'm very pessimistic as about what's going to happen with our current president. I'll try not to say his name, give him the publicity. As far as the stock market is concerned, if you'll notice, we had the stock market crisis. There was a Republican president. We had the SNL crisis. We had a Republican president. Where we had the Great Recession, we had a Republican president. The economy has been better under Democratic president. People don't understand that because, okay, easing the regulations, putting more money, taking money out of the economy by having tax cuts while paying for them. It's like a sugar high. You feel good for a while, and then eventually we get a crash. It all comes. It's a check that's going to be paid for eventually, and that's what's going to happen. And I'm very pessimistic. My only optimism is that the country is pretty strong and our institutions are strong, and I'm hoping that it will, the tensions will get through this.
Great stability. I don't have to ask you more questions.
That's it. Okay.
Thank you. Next speaker is Harvey Fisher, who is the evaluator for Beth.